Why start a podcast in 2025? Welcome to 10 Minute Marketing, your weekly resource for tips, news, trends, and more to help take your business's marketing from 0 to 10 in 10. All right, we got our timer. We got 10 minutes on the timer. Let's start that off and jump right into it. Here we go. Okay, why start a podcast in 2025? Well, there's a few different reasons, but I'm going to jump right into the marketing aspect of it because that's what you're here for, right? So we have two different podcasts. This one we just started, where it's just myself talking about marketing, news, things like that, stuff our business does and we're knowledgeable on, and we need to demonstrate that knowledge. So with this podcast, it not only helps solidify us as experts in our field, and gives it something to reach potential business owners or other people that we might do business with. It allows them to see the different stuff we do, how we do it, a lot of the different things to think about, and stuff they might just not want to mess with, where we come in. The other thing to think about with this is it's going to provide us with a lot of content besides just the podcast. We could take reels from this and we could cut those up. And from one 10-minute podcast, hopefully we're going to be able to make, at least 5 to 6 different pieces of content, if not more. And the other podcast we do is called Inside the Box, itbpodcast.com. Check it out. That one's a little different because we have guests on it. And it's more about talking with different business owners and learning their story and just connecting with the community in general. Now, both of them have very different purposes. This one, again, is talking about the knowledge and gives us an opportunity to share that knowledge, bring value to the people watching it, and hopefully make a connection there to potentially do business with them. And that one is an opportunity to bring potential clients into the studio, for them to see our studio, for them to jump on and us to get to know each other a little bit, or existing clients. So they both have kind of a different purpose, but what I will say with both of them is I enjoy doing both of them. I will say 100% do not start a podcast about something you do not enjoy talking about. This is something I enjoy. I enjoy talking about it. It energizes me. I enjoy meeting people with the other podcasts and talking to them and learning their story. We haven't made a lot of money off of these. There's a couple times we've gotten clients from them and it's worked out, but you want to go into it not expecting anything. You should do that with content in general. Go into it without expecting anything in return. With that being said, it gives you a lot of opportunity for a return. If you stick with it, if you do it long term, this is only technically the second episode. The first one was an introduction. This is technically the second episode of 10 Minute Marketing, and I'm excited about it. I love to talk about it, and what's nice about this is I don't necessarily have to have a guest. I potentially will in the future, but I just get to share where my mind is with different things we do and our marketing. And the other thing that's awesome that comes from this is content. Like I said, we're going to be able to take this one and make reels out of it. We're going to be able to take our other one and make reels out of it. Between a single podcast, you should be able to make 5 to 6 good pieces of content from something like this. Our other one's an hour long, so we might have some there that are potential to business and relate to our business, and those will get shared on our business. But then there's stuff where we get into more personal stuff, and I'll share those on my personal social media. So we're kind of hitting a lot of different aspects with that. Now, as a business, I think you need to, again, get into it because it's something you want to do. And I don't think it necessarily has to be about your business. You might be a car salesman, but you absolutely friggin' love football. So if you don't want to talk about cars all the time, and that seems salesy, and maybe people aren't as apt to tune into that, start one about football and really be passionate about it and talk about it And you can randomly plug where you work and what you do. And as you build a following and that following enjoys listening to your podcast, it will naturally create business for you. So there's a lot of different reasons to do this. It's just important you're doing it for the right reasons and you're doing it with some strategy behind it. Now, we talk about creating a lot of content from your podcast. So when we do a podcast, we want to be as efficient as possible. This is all about efficiency. We don't have a ton of time. So for our Inside the Box podcast, we have a dedicated room. We're lucky enough to have a dedicated room, dedicated podcast setup, dedicated cameras. We got a 3-camera setup, 4 microphones, 4 seats at the table, and I have somebody on my team that runs that. But what is nice is when we do a podcast, as soon as we're done, we have a file that's edited and ready to go. We could take it literally right after the podcast if we want to and go start posting it. My guy that runs it, Ryan, shout out Ryan, he switches between cameras live during the podcast, and then it's done, it's edited, and we can upload it right away. Now, those podcasts are about an hour long, so in total, maybe we have 2 hours dedicated to that single filming of that podcast. What we use to help make our distribution efficient is Spotify for Creators. So this is a tool that used to be called Anchor, and you can upload your podcast there and it distributes it across the web to Amazon, to Apple, to everywhere. And it puts it on Spotify with video and audio. It pulls the audio and puts it at all the other places, which is super nice. It doesn't put it to YouTube, so we have to upload it there directly. But that is a very useful tool that helps save us a lot of time. This one's a little bit different. We're not in that room at my desk here. So we have a little setup here that's temporarily. We got a couple things we're changing. But the goal with this one is to just get this information out. There's not an intro. There's nothing like that like the other one. So we don't need all of the crazy tools, but we're going for the same thing here. I want to set this up to a point where as soon as I'm done filming, I'm able to go post that pretty much right away. And we're not there yet with the current setup I have, but with the couple things we're waiting on to get in, it will be very similar. And so that's one tool we use, the Spotify for Creators. The other tool now, we talk about creating clips from these podcasts, descriptions, each platform, whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, whatever it may be, really your description should be a little bit different to cater for that community on those given platforms. And one tool that we've been using recently is Swell AI. And Swell AI is pretty nice. There's a bunch of these. There's one called Opus. There's several different ones, so you have to try them out. This is one we just started trying and we've enjoyed it. In Swell AI, you upload your podcast and it will clip it for you into a bunch of reels, which is nice. And then not only that, it gives you a transcript of the podcast and it will break down different texts for Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Instagram captions, YouTube, email newsletter. It'll even suggest titles for you. And again, we're talking about efficiency here because time is money, and doing a podcast you have to be dedicated to it. You have to do it regularly or it's never gonna grow. So again, the key parts to doing this efficiently is your setup, your overall process, which includes your setup here, the tools you're using post, whether it's editing or whether it's ready to go right after, and then the tools you're using to create content from that larger piece of content. So things like Swell AI, and then the distribution of your primary podcast where the Spotify for Creators comes in. All of these things have allowed us to be very efficient in doing a podcast. You know, when we first originally started the Inside the Box podcast, there was 2 cameras, and it used to be we would film with both of them. We'd have to take that footage, go offload it, pull it up in Premiere, edit it, chop it up, line the audio up. The audio was a separate file, and 10 minutes is up already. And it just used to take hours. We probably had to take 4 to 5 hours to get one episode edited. The timer's up. Start a podcast in 2025. This is the time. There's no better time. It doesn't matter that the market's flooded. If you're gonna do it, but do it for a reason. Have a plan your process, and enjoy what you're doing a podcast on. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them below or whatever that may be. If you enjoyed this, please let me know. Again, this is the first real episode. I'd love to hear more. And yeah, share your podcast if you start one. I want to check it out. I'll subscribe if you will subscribe. But 10-Minute Marketing, your weekly resource. Check in next week. And I appreciate you guys.